I know you're worried about disappointing people, but until you can embrace that, until you can embrace that there is power in disappointing people on this growth journey, it's going to be really hard for you to push past a certain threshold. And we got to get past that and over it and accept that, you know what, on this journey, once people start getting disappointed, that's how you know you are definitely on the right track. Let's chat about it right now.
Check it out.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori. I am so excited that you are here. It is summer here for us, and my friends in the Southern Hemisphere, it's winter. And I love talking to you guys because I get to live vicariously in sweater weather for you guys. But it isn't that here. I'm really happy to talk about this episode and this topic because it is pivotal when you know where you are on your journey. This is very imperative that if you want the worksheet that's going to help you it kind of go deeper with yourself and make it more of a personal thing for you, I highly encourage you to go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/ the positivity experience with an X. You can find that link in the description to wherever you're getting this podcast right now, along with my website, because a lot of you say, I don't know where to go to make an appointment with you. You can go directly there. I am updating the site, which I have been doing for a while because it is just me and I got a million things to do. But it's going to be very easy to navigate. And it honestly is right now. It's just a one pager right now. It gets the job done, but it just doesn't have my flair. I'm a little colorful. So I want this and that. But feel free, jump on over there. This topic is why is this important to me? Well, they're all going to be important to me, but this one is really important to me because it's a big piece to just not only my own growth, and I've moved past this piece of it, but watching different clients that I work with and just seeing people go from people pleasing to switching from that. But I need you to get very clear that is not a short process. And it is something that you have to remind yourself of daily. Number one, I think before we even go deeper with that is understanding what this growth journey is going to look like for you. Everybody's path is a little bit different, but there's kind of a simple system. It's not simple, but it's a simple system in breaking it down. First, it's the acknowledgement of it. It's the acceptance that, oh my God, this is crazy for me right now. Maybe my whole life wasn't what I thought it was. Maybe living in this survival thing, maybe I don't have to do it anymore. There's a lot of observation and a lot of reality checks within yourself. And the biggest part of that before you start this journey, whether you listen to me or you listen to somebody else, and you got your affirmations everywhere, doesn't matter until you're tired of dealing with your own self. And what I mean by that, that's not negative. That's positive because you want to be your problem. Always know that. You want to be the problem because you are in control of you. You're not in control of everybody else or everything else being the problem. So when you get to that point of going, wow, I'm really tired of blaming people. I'm tired of constantly people pleasing. I'm tired of walking on eggshells. I'm tired of trying to psychoanalyze everything. When you're tired of that, and I mean fully tired and ready to commit, that's when you know that starting on your growth journey is magical. Is it hard? Sure. Is it harder for you to stay stuck now? Yeah. So that's why this topic is really important because this seems to be a big holding point for some. I can't begin to tell you how many people want to feel better. They want to grow. They want to do the things, right? But they don't necessarily want to hurt anybody's feelings. Well, that's kind of what got you here. And I understand it's trauma. I get it. I did it. I fully understand it. But there's a point in time where you do have to take ownership of where you are today. I am responsible for me. You are responsible for you. Now, we might have had the cards stacked against us because of how we were raised, the traumas, the caregivers who were unhealed. Because remember, you're only going to be as good as the caregivers before you. And when I say good, I don't mean there's anything wrong with you, just as far as the tools. And I want to go a little bit into the science of it and the brain and how that works. I won't stay there, I promise. That can get a little nauseating. But your brain, and I talked to you guys about this before, your brain isn't necessarily wired for discomfort. It just isn't. Now, That's where that survival comes into play. You're like, oh my God, what is happening here? So your brain goes, okay, we don't like this. And your brain is also wired for community. It's also wired for connections. That is where you enter in attachment issues and insecurities. I'm going to table that for a minute, but I promise I'll come back to that. But in your brain is smart, but I feel like in so many ways it's not so smart because your brain believes what you feed it. And so there's the chicken and the egg. So let's say you have the anxiety, you have the traumas, you have all of those things. So in your mind, that's very real. I mean, the experience was real, but in your mind, that need for survival is real. So in turn, you're signaling to your brain, hey, man, we're in danger. And your brain goes, oh my God, okay, this is what we need to do. So that's where that survival skill comes into play. And while you're not necessarily wired for that piece of it, as far as, comfort or discomfort or comfort, it is one of those things that it's supposed to be difficult, but when you get on the other side of it, it's beautiful. See, here's the thing. I'll tell a lot of people this, and I definitely tell you guys this. Your and I'm going to go back to this. Your journey is not meant to be fast, and it's only going to be as good as you're willing to commit to it. And if it seems boring, like, okay, so let's say you're at a certain part of whatever the healing is. Let's say we're working together, you're working together with somebody else, and you think, oh my God, we keep talking about the same thing. Yes, and we will, because you have to implement it. This was my problem going through my stuff. Oh my God, this was my problem. I really wanted to keep, like, I was like, oh, okay, I understand that. Okay, next. What are we going to do? All right, let's talk about something else. I don't want to keep talking about this. Well, I needed to implement it. And just because you know it and you do it for a month or two doesn't mean that it's implemented. So the patience for this piece is going to be imperative for you. This is why you've got to give yourself a little bit of compassion, but don't let that drift into excuses. Because compassion and empathy, good, but it walks a really dangerous line of going into victimization or allowing yourself to just constantly make mistakes or make excuses, not mistakes. And so going back to what I was saying about your brain, when you're going into the attachments, and please go to some of my previous podcasts, I have well over 225 episodes. If you're on the Patreon, go back to some of those worksheets. They all go hand in hand. You have access to every one of those worksheets. When you realize what's going on, let's say it is attachment, let's say it is ego, because yes, your ego comes into play. Regardless of what it is, you have to realize there is a foundation of why you struggle with something, but you have to push through it. So going back to, like I said, your brain is wired for connectivity, community. And when you're dealing with, let's say, abandonment, you are constantly seeking that. So you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, which, oh God, that's a whole messy thing that I'll talk to you about too, because you're not responsible for other people's emotions. And I think you need to get very clear there. Vice versa. They're not responsible for yours either, but you are not responsible for how somebody sees you and how they feel about it, because a lot of those times they're not sure themselves. So you coming in on your horse to raise your sword and be like, I'm here to fix it. I don't want you to feel sad. Well, guess what? You can't say yes to something without saying no to something else. That's just how it is. If you constantly say yes to this and yes to that, and oh, I don't want to I'm going to walk on eggshells. Like, I'm going to be the peacekeeper here because it's uncomfortable. Well, every time you do that, you are once again putting your inner child or inner children in a corner and shutting the door and saying, I'm not going to deal with you. See, that's the part that you are forgetting. Or maybe you're just, maybe you never knew it, but maybe you don't want to hear it, but it's facts, whether you want to hear it or not. You are so focused on how everybody else sees you. And, oh, what if they listen, if they leave or if they have an issue with your boundaries or you protecting your peace, I don't care who they are. I don't care how they're related to you. They may not need to be in your circle, period. Now, that also goes for you, because just because you don't like how somebody does something with their boundaries, or, they're pretty strong in their boundaries and you don't like it, well, I mean, that's on you. Because people are doing what they need to do for themselves, and that's not negative, because you cannot be strong enough to say, I'm going to pick and choose my connections based on what's good for me until you realize that you don't have to worry about how somebody feels about it. Just because you fall in love with an idea of what you want, that doesn't mean that it's healthy for you. And it doesn't mean that it's ever going to be that way. So, like I said, your brain is wired for those connections, but you got to be very careful of abandoning yourself to try to be connected to somebody else because now you constantly seek it. Remember what I was saying? You want to be your problem. You want that. That is all control within yourself. All control. So when you start trying to figure out, okay, well, I don't want them to be upset or what if they leave me and everything like that, there is a rack of you, at least one, if not several, just waiting to be heard by you. Just, hey man, okay, well, that's great. We're giving all this energy to somebody who may or may not, want to be around us, or they may not fit the narrative, but I guess I'll just sit over here. I'll be ignored and be abandoned once again, because you will abandon yourself over and over and over again the more you worry about not disappointing other people. So when you start saying, I'm okay with disappointing other people, now you are telling yourself, hey, you're important to me. That's right. You are important to me, because when you're so worried about everybody else and, oh my God, I'm going to be alone. Well, yeah. How do you think these inner children feel? How do you think all of these inner children of yours, that's how they've been felt? Okay. So just because people are around you and just because people are breathing oxygen in your space does not mean that they're there. I promise you, you can be in rooms of hundreds and hundreds of people. You can have a spouse, you can have friends, you can have adult children, you can have these things and still feel like you're alone because you are not prioritizing yourself and you're so worried about others' feelings. Again, I'm going to go back to that. You are not responsible for their feelings. I understand that you want that connectivity. Again, brain is wired for that. But do not allow those attachments, those insecurities, those needs of identity. And that is important because that's what we're going to talk about right now. And that is identity. If you have attached your identity to being the fixer or the peacekeeper or anything else, whether I don't care if it was given to you or not, you're grown now. That might have been given to you, but you get to change the role. You do get to change the role. Don't say you don't have a choice. You have a choice. You do have a choice. It's, are you willing to be uncomfortable? Are you willing to say, all right, well, I might have to, this relationship might not be great. And then you'll start making excuses. Well, they're older. Oh my God. Well, they are 80 and okay. And I hear you, but you were once again, what are we going to say here? There's always going to be a something. This person's older. Oh, this person had a bad day. Oh, this person is just sad. Okay. You're allowed to have empathy for people, but stop being the fixer, the peacekeeper, because the moment you step out of that role, couple things. One, you're like, who am I? What's happening here? Number one. Number two, well, a couple of them here. There's more than two. Number two, you're unfamiliar with it because you're like, okay, well, if they get sad, that's a reflection on me. No, these are people and things around situations, but we're talking about people. These are people who have been, and this is not on them. This is human nature, you, me, them. When you are allowed something, when you're allowed to do something, when you are comfortable doing something, when it becomes a habit, it's harder to break. I say this because now these people who are so used to picking up the phone, you're the peacekeeper. Oh, you'll drop everything at the drop of a hat and here you'll come and blah, blah, blah. So the moment you don't do that, there's going to be a few things that are going to be like, whoa, what's happening here? And then when you stay strong in it and they go, oh, God, I'm so disappointed. Now, listen, you're human. You're allowed to be disappointed that you didn't get to go to something. You're allowed to be disappointed that this person didn't say or do something. You are allowed that. You are not allowed to inflict that on another person. They are not responsible for how you feel, and vice versa. And this is where, once you get to that place of saying, well, it's going to be what it's going to be, you don't have to be a dick about it, right? Like, you don't have to be a dick about it, but they're going to think you're a dick anyway. So it's not going to matter. You want to be careful, though, of babysitting this. We're not going to be oh, I'm going to be gentle. You've been doing that. If you keep doing that, you're still worried about how other people feel, and you're worried about not disappointing them. So just because you change the narrative or the language in your mind of something, it's still the same thing. You're still saying the exact same thing. So you listen, there's a strategy in your reframing and proof of growth, because once you get to this point where, and there's a script. Now there's going to be different words and verbiage. I've been doing this a long time. There's just a general script for people pleasing, general script, for manipulation, general script for narcissism. Like, there's a script. They're going to have the same format, maybe different words, but it's usually going to be, so let's say I don't know, you're standing in yourself, you're going to protect your peace, you're doing the things we were talking about, protecting the peace last week. So go back and listen to that. And you're doing that. That people are going to be disappointed because you didn't say or do what they wanted you to do, or you used to do it. And now you don't. Now you're extra. Now you're rude, blah, blah, blah. When that happens, you're going to see the progression. So first it's going to be a little off-putting for them. They're going to be like, whoa, like, what is happening here? So they might be inquisitive. They might start pushing that envelope to see how far can I go. Right. And then that's where you say, so let's say you were like, no, thank you, I'm not going to be able to come, or no, thank you, I'm not going to go. And they're like, oh, well, why not? See, they're going to try to push. And then this is where you say, I've already given you my answer. I'm not going to go any further. But are you willing to be assertive? Because that's not rude. That's direct. So nobody has to guess. Because once you start giving information, you're walking into a debate that says you are allowed to determine if my no or my reason is valid. You already know. I'm already going to tell you, no, thank you, period, end of story. Do not give information. Do not. But let's pretend you do. We've done this before, and it's definitely worth repeating almost every podcast. If in fact you say, no, thank you, because you are good, but now they're like, oh, okay. So now you go, oh my God, they're disappointed. Holy crap. Let me tell them why I'm not going. So first you're like, oh man, I got this thing with softball or soccer or whatever, and I just got game that day. I'm not going to be able to come. So they go, okay, well, that makes sense. Oh, okay. All right, cool. So in your mind, you're like, oh, good, thank God. Now, let's say you had a long week. You would just want to come home and watch The Last of Us, or you want to watch something on Netflix. You want to count cat hair on your socks. You just don't want to. You just want to stare and watch paint dry. I don't care what it is. That's valid. But let's say, advised highly against it, you go, yeah, man, I'm just tired. I'm just going to go home. Just going to watch The Last of Us. And then now they're going to go, well, that's dumb. That's Netflix, or that's Hulu or Max or whatever. They can watch that anytime. So now they, in their mind, seem to think they have permission to negotiate if your reason is valid. And because you're so worried about disappointing them and not being liked, this is where you go into that over-explaining, constant over-explaining. Understand its trauma, understand its insecurity. We are here today. We have got to push through that in order to grow, period. So this is why they might be disappointed. They might be like, oh, because here's the other thing that they'll do, right? So I already told you they're going to be inquisitive. And they might even say something like, oh, okay, so let's say you say, who's going to be there? Always your default answer is, let me get back to you. Why, what's up? And you are allowed at any given time to say who's going to be there. Oh, do you want to come to this? I'm not sure. Why? Who's going to be there? And then they might pull out, well, I'm going to be there. Yeah. Okay. Well, if they're your friend and you may feel uncomfortable around someone, they shouldn't want you to feel uncomfortable, and they'll be okay if you don't come. You guys can do something separate. So see, this is where this comes into play, because you're so worried about disappointing other people that you're disappointing yourself. Who matters more here? Because I'm going to tell you every second of the day. Every second of the day. When you are solid, the connections and the community around you become solid. So now you're both promoting each other's growth and well-being, and you're supporting each other, even if this means that you guys might differ in opinion, or this might be important to you and not me. And that's great. The moment you stop worrying about disappointing people is the moment that you clear space to create better connections, regardless of if you wanted somebody else to be that way or not. So this is where that reframe has to come in, because you're not meant to be a universal pleasing person. You're meant to be authentic. But I'm going to tell you right now, your authenticity is going to be off-putting to people, especially if they told you who you're supposed to be since you were little, and they told you those things. And then they did those things that said, "Oh, I'm very disappointed in you. You got it 87 on your test. I I told you to study a little harder. I'm a little disappointed." Right? So you've been told this, "I'm disappointed." Like they hold some validity in deciding if you gave enough or not. And that's just how, yeah, that's just how we got brought up, right? That's not an excuse. That's a reason. So if you constantly heard, disappointed, but yet you heard, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of you," every time you got 100, but disappointed at 87, well, constantly now you've gone back into perfectionism. Well, this isn't enough. That isn't good. I don't want that. I can't have that. That's where it becomes problematic. And that's where it becomes a habit. That's where it becomes a system. That's where we go into this, "Oh my God, why can't I be okay with disappointing someone?" And here's a question for you to ask yourself, like right now, while you're listening to this in real time, wherever you are, driving, cleaning, I don't care what it is. Ask yourself this: are you abandoning yourself? Are you neglecting yourself or your little inner children that are sitting in the corner just waiting for you to pay attention to them because you're so worried about everybody else abandoning you, but yet you abandon you every single day? So why are we putting this on them? Let's put that back on ourselves, because you want to be the problem. Because if you're the problem, you get to correct it. You get to say, "I'm enough to show up for these little children. I don't need everybody else to do so. They're great. They're an enhancer. They are not your foundation of being able to listen to those little children." So ask yourself right now, who are you? How many times are you abandoning yourself for this person, whoever it is? I don't know. It doesn't matter who it is. Who do you need to pull back from for your mental health? And you've been all freaked out about disappointing them. Now go deeper with that and say, why? Why are you worried about disappointing them? "Oh, because they're not going to talk to you." Well, good. Good. Because if you're always trying to please them and you're always trying to not disappoint them, you are going to do that for the rest of your life, because a person isn't just going to be like, "You know what? This always makes me happy." Nope, people are people. So they're going to navigate in and out of feelings. "Oh, this works this time." I mean, that's definitely big for an alcoholic, right? Because my dad was an alcoholic, so I thought I could be like, "Oh, I know this is good." And then guess what? It wasn't. I'm like, "Oh my God," right? So we know that some of it can be not feeling safe, mentally and emotionally. Again, we're here today. You're here today. Stay with me here. We understand that there is a reason. That's the one thing I do with my clients. I go back. We look at it. We relive it multiple times. That's right, because that takes away the emotional, being an emotional hostage to your past. But then we come back here and I'll say, "Are you responsible for you?" Yes. "Are you okay with disappointing people?" In theory, yes. Not sure how to do it. And that's why, like I was saying earlier, your healing journey, A, lifelong, B, if you're in sessions with me or the top therapist in the entire planet, they're going to do the same thing. It's slow, and you're going to have to do it over and over again. Why? Because then you will desensitize yourself to this disappointment. And the more you start talking to those little children that have been neglected for so long, the more you're like, "Wait a minute. Whoa, I matter way more than what's happening over here." And that's how you know you start to push through that threshold. So going back to, like I said, the pattern. So first they're going to be inquisitive. Okay, now you're going to start seeing there could be a little bit more aggression. A little bit, "Well, what is wrong with you?" "Well, what do you mean what's wrong with me?" Are you good? Like, why are you being so short with me?" Right? So remember, we went from inquisitive. Now we're a little angry because they tried it one way. That didn't work. So they're going to be like, "Okay, I'm going to push back," because in the past, before you're on this healing journey, they might have intimidated you, or you might have felt intimidated, because intimidating and intimidated is two very different things. But now they're trying to pull that out. Now, let's say that doesn't work because you're either gray rocking, you're pulling back, or you're like, no, I'm standing firm in my boundaries. Now they're going to go even outside of that. So now they're going to try to maybe smear campaign you. They're going to try to pull all these people in because they're disappointed. I'm disappointed in them. So they're trying to get other people to go to bat for them to say, God, she's so disappointed. Like she just doesn't understand or he doesn't understand, blah, 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 blah. Now, at that point, one of two things happens. Either that's it, the relationship's done, severed, which good, because then they were able to remove themselves from your life without you having to even deal with it. Great. Or the other side of that is now they go back to trying to be nice. Right now, they try to come into your good graces. So now, what you used to do for people pleasing, the roles have now reversed. And I don't care if they're coming to you or gray rocking you or distancing from you. Good. Don't let them come back though. Because you've already seen it. If you see somebody the way they are, you got to believe it, not how you want it to be, not falling in love with, oh, they're coming back and they seem so nice. Listen, you might fall for that on this healing journey because you're new here, and that's okay. But just remember breadcrumbing. Remember, this is a system. They're trying to get what they want, which is also a human trait. We as human beings don't want to be disappointed. We as human beings want what we want right now. That's just how we're wired. That again, not an excuse. You don't get to live on that. So I want you to think of I'm going to give you 3 things to say to yourself when you go into, oh my God, it's hard. Yes. Okay. Number 1, stop saying that. Life is hard. And isn't the way you're living constantly feeling like you're on eggshells? Isn't that hard? Well, choose your hard here. So when you start feeling like, oh my God, it's hard, script number 1, now this is how you can address certain things. So pick and choose, add your own stuff. I understand that this may disappoint you. I care about you, but I need to honor what's right for me. Again, everything I tell you is going to be direct and assertive. They don't have to second guess it. They don't have to say, oh, are you talking? Yes, I'm talking about you. I'm talking directly to you. So once again, I understand this may disappoint you and I care about you, but I need to honor what's right for me. If they try, I already told you, they're going to try to push. I'm not going to explore this conversation with you any further. You got to remember, you're going to have to be uncomfortable with making them uncomfortable or them appearing uncomfortable. Number 2, I carried a role that doesn't feel fair to me any longer. Okay, that's good. This may be uncomfortable, but it is necessary because you have to allow people to know, hey, I know this is going to be uncomfortable for you, but I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you don't have to say it like that, but that's essentially what you're saying. And this version of me is committed to peace, not performance. Think about that. Peace, not performance. What's more important to you? Your peace or performing for another person? So answering that question is going to be important because often you have to just tell people, yes, I am talking directly to you. And they're not going to like that either because for so long you haven't been assertive. You haven't had to do those things. This version of me is committed to peace, not performance. This lets them know I have been performing for a long time. And don't sit there and say, you made me perform. No, take accountability for yourself. Just because this is how you're raised, you're here today. Again, be your problem so you can change it. You don't have to blame somebody else because then that goes into that weird kind of growing, but yeah, and that's okay because you'll probably be there for a little bit of time. Now, you got to regulate your guilt and feeling of panic because that was going to happen. You're going to feel panicked. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel those things. So here is a reminder. Their disappointment does not mean that I am unsafe. I need you to hear that. Their disappointment does not mean I am unsafe. It means I am unfamiliar to them in this new form. So you're unfamiliar to those feelings in this new form. Doesn't make it wrong. Doesn't make it wrong. Just because somebody's upset and disappointed in you does not make you wrong. Because again, human nature, we want what we want when we want it. If it goes against it, or if we get kind of freaked out about it, of course, people are going to try to pull out everything that they can. This is, again, not personal. And you have to realize that people pleasing is rooted in that fawn response, which we know is like a survival thing. But again, I'm going to go back to the little children. The one that when you were little, you felt like you were unseen, and then you just have to keep moving in life because that's what you do. So there's that kid, that kid who tried their best to do their best that they could, but it just didn't seem like it was quite enough. But you do have to keep moving life. So there's that person. The person who never felt secure within themselves because you never felt that way because you had to be in survival school. There they are. That's just 3. You might have a whole ass auditorium of yous at different ages waiting for you. So at this pivotal part of your healing journey, you have to say, okay, think of it as like, I don't know, let's be dramatic for a minute, okay? And let's not use kids. Let's say it's a friend or a spouse or whatever. And you both are, it's a Titanic moment, right? It's either you or Jack, right? Who you choosing? Because at the end of the day, are you choosing you? Are you so worried about somebody else being disappointed that you're going to let yourself drown? Because you've been drowning a long time. You've been trying to keep your head above water, and sometimes you're not above water. Sometimes you're barely treading water and barely surviving. So here's where you have to say, am I willing to disappoint them? Or am I willing to remain disappointed? Now, this isn't the disappointment of shame, right? Not like, no. No, the disappointment of saying, these people are not reaching the level that I need. So you keep trying to love someone more. You can't love someone more into loving you more or loving you at all. I mean, that's just not a thing. Again, realize, be the problem, acknowledge it, let's work through it. So in that moment, and this part, now you might not be on this part of your journey yet, by the way. Again, this is like midway, close to midway. So still in the beginning phases, almost like midway. And you'll have to live here for a while, but that doesn't mean that you get off here and you go, okay, ready for this healing journey? Yay, I'm going to disappoint people. No, not yet. Not yet. You're not quite there because you can't run that marathon when you only have energy for a sprint. So so you're going to have to tailor this a little bit to where you go, okay, this is what I'm striving for. But what you can do early on your journey is say, going back to that question I asked you, who right now needs to be disappointed in order to have yourself as a priority? And then that's where you say, okay, I'm here right now. Let me observe what it is I'm still seeking. There has to be some radical acceptance. Go back to that podcast for sure. There has to be some radical acceptance that I don't care how you want that relationship to be. This is how it is, period, end of story. You can feel some kind of way. You cannot like it. Do not idolize people. I don't care if it's a mom. I don't care if it's a dad. I don't care if it's a spouse. I don't care if it's a priest. I don't care who it is. Stop idealizing. Stop idolizing any person. Stop. No one is better than you. No one should have to prove your value based on their interaction with you. No one. Just because they might not vibe with you, let's call that what it is. You don't vibe with everybody. So stop trying to get everybody like you. You don't like everybody. Facts. Not just because you don't like them, does that make them unlovable? No. Just because somebody isn't giving you this idea of what you want, does that make you unlovable? No. And don't let somebody else's voices or actions make you believe otherwise. Meaning, if you've seen it and you said, well, if I did this, I got love. If I didn't do this, I didn't get love. Well, we know that that's where people pleasing and also perfectionism. So there is power in disappointing people. Because if not, once again, there's those children over there starving. They're cold, they're hungry, they're thirsty, they're starving because you're waiting for all these people that you don't want to disappoint to somehow or another walk in with life preservers and run to these children and go, I am here for you. No, Stop giving them power and giving them access to you that they don't deserve. And nobody for that matter, regardless of who they are. So stop tailoring it. Stop idealizing people. Stop it, because then you're going to idol them. And then when you get smacked in the face of them being a person and you not understanding, well, God, why would they stay? Or why would they do this? Or why would they do that? You don't have to understand it, because then you have to peel back this idea. And I did that with my mom. My mom was ill, and she passed right before my 14th birthday, about a week or two. She had been ill for a long time. There was all kinds of fuckery going on in my house. So a lot of you already know that. But I put her on this pedestal of like, God, she was like my rock. But you know what? She wasn't on a pedestal. She was a person. And I remember early, I was seeing a psychiatrist, and they basically said, you got to stop putting your mom on a pedestal. She could have done more. And I remember being angry and going, what do you mean? Like, she was paralyzed on her left side. She couldn't do more. And she goes, stop doing that. Stop making excuses for her. That was hard. That was hard. That was hard. And I was angry. And I thought, how dare you? Why would you say that? You have no idea what I went through, because that's the victimization, right? That's how, listen, you got to have tough love. So if you're looking for coddling, I'm definitely not going to be your person. But the reality check was exactly what I needed. She told me exactly what I needed. It took me a minute. I was angry. Oh my God, I was mad. And then I sat and thought, I don't want to go back to see her. But I do want to go back and see her because I'm kind of angry. But what? Like, I don't even understand what to do with that information she gave me. And I went back. I told her, I'm mad at you. I don't like you right now. She said, good. She said, absolutely good. That means that you're starting to make a breakthrough. And as I worked through it, then I was like, you know what? You're right. You're right. Stop putting anybody, regardless of how they were there for you during this time or in those moments of darkness. And because we fall in love and it looks like, oh my God, you were everything to me and you were my all. Well, when you put them on that pedestal, it's real easy for them to fall off. And then you go, why are they what is happening here? That doesn't mean that it was a lie. It doesn't mean that your relationship was a lie. Then you get disappointed. You're disappointed. And in turn, you don't want to disappoint somebody else, because now you're projecting you being disappointed. But why are you worrying about them when you got a whole stable of you over here that really needs to be heard and seen and worked through? So no, maybe that child or maybe that young person or teen or whatever that was constantly looking for happiness, maybe they need to hear you a little bit. Maybe you need to hold their hand and we need to discuss some things and we need to talk and help them understand that that does not make them unlovable, or, that they have to continue to do that. Looking at them and saying, it's okay to disappoint people. You need to put that on a wall somewhere. It's okay to disappoint people. Also, underneath that, I am not responsible for everybody else's emotions, period. Are you going to be uncomfortable? Yes. Are you going to wake up one day and go, I am ready? No, we're not going to do that. You're not going to start Monday, right? You're not going to do the whole diet culture thing where on a Friday, you're going to start losing weight on Monday. So you're going to go balls to the wall. You're like, woo, I'm going to throw it down because Monday's the day you get up, you get ready Monday. Woo, I started my journey. Come Wednesday, Thursday, you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. Let me just have one fry now because you tried to, totally black and white it and tell yourself, no, I can't have this. And I got to be keto and I got to do this and blah, 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 blah. And now you go down on a binge because you've now told yourself, I can't do this because this food is the villain. Stop doing that. The food is not the villain. The boundary is not the villain. So then you repeat that same cycle, right? So then you're constantly like, okay, well, I'm going to do better next time. And it's one thing to say, oh my God, I fell off the wagon. Let's do it again. But you're telling yourself this food is a villain. This boundary is a villain. Being disappointed is the villain. And it isn't. It never will be. And of course, when someone starts to lose control over the access that they have to you, or they don't like what they're getting in return, of course, they're going to tell you they're disappointed. You need to remind yourself over and over and over again, I understand this may disappoint you, but I care about you. But I got to honor what's right for me. And do not be surprised if they say to you, they're going to pull out this manipulation. Listen to what I'm saying. This is a script. They will use this. Not all of them. Somebody is going to use this. Well, if you cared about me, you would do blank. That will come out of their mouth in that form. Yes, it will. It might not come out day one, but it's going to come out. If you cared about me, you wouldn't do this. If you cared about me, you wouldn't want me to be disappointed. That will be part of a dialogue. Now, remember, I said this to you because the moment you start doing this, this is where you go, oh, okay. Lori said this is a good thing. I don't care how you feel about it. I don't care how uncomfortable it makes you feel. You're doing something right here because those words will be uttered to you. They will. It might be uttered to you with more than one person. So this is where you have to say, all right, I see what they're doing there, because that's what's going to happen. Either if you cared about me, you'd do this. I would do this for you. I can't believe this. I'm so disappointed, as though they carry so much validation over you. And to be fair, they probably did. To be fair, yep, that's probably exactly what happened. But you're here now. Those kids, that stadium of people, that auditorium of people that are all you, have every right to just look to you. Screw all these other people around that you're waiting to come save you. That's not going to happen. I know you've heard it a million times. Nobody's coming to save you. And that's a fact. That's a fact. I don't care how you want it to be. And even that relationship that you think is going to be the saving grace is not. Because you're going to keep moving the goalpost, and you're going to keep performing, and you're going to keep having people come into your life loving a version of you that's fake because you're worried about their disappointment. So that's why there's so much power in disappointing people. Power. You have in your head, in your mind, you were told that disappointing people's wrong. You shouldn't do that. That's terrible. You're self-absorbed. How dare you do that? Because A, they might not know how to do it. B, whoa, that takes control away. That takes the power of control right away from them. Right away from them. Chronic self-abandonment, because that's what happens, builds an identity around being needed. So when you're constantly abandoning yourself and you're constantly aligning with, I need to fix this. I need to be the people pleaser. This is my identity. This is why when, say, kids leave the house for college, because your entire life, do not do this, has been around these kids and been around being a homemaker. Great. Love that for you. That can't be your identity. Because now they leave and you're like, I don't know what to do with myself. It's the same thing if you're no longer the fixer, because you've identified as the glue of the family. You've identified that. So the moment that changes, you're like, oh, well, gosh, I feel even more alone now. Good. You got to. That can't be your identity. Being the fixer, being the people pleaser, being the person who's always reliable on somebody's feelings, that can't be your go-to. Because you will constantly attach value and worth on you're deserving of being loved or having attention or whatever. You're attaching that on that identity. That's self-abandonment. That's, once again, you telling these kids, these people, hey, you're not that important. We got to allow these people over here to tell you how important you are. Yeah. And I'm glad that that's that direct, because you need to hear it that way. You need to hear it that way. You need to hear that you're abandoning these children because you're waiting for these people to validate you. For what? For what? I promise you this. I know you've heard this too. Nobody doing better than you, nobody in a better headspace, or nobody in a solid headspace will ever judge you. They can be disappointed. You can be disappointed because you're a human being. You're not a robot. Fair. Do not allow yourself not to make that move or protect your peace because of their disappointment. See, the key is not to allow anyone to inflict that disappointment onto you to try to get you to change, to try to get you to do that. And you stop negotiating. This is on you now. Stop negotiating. Well, they're this. Well, they're that. Well, they're this person. Well, they're that person. Well, they were always there for me and blah, 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 blah. Okay, that doesn't mean that you sacrifice your right kidney for the rest of your life because of that. That's not what you do. So it's up to you now. What are you going to do? Well, you don't have to get off here and start all of a sudden being like, okay, F it, I'm going to disappoint people, but you got to get comfortable with it. And the best way to do that is go, what are my fears of losing? By the way, people are not items, they're not keys, they're not phones. You do not lose them. What is my fear of disappointing them? What is my fear? Now, a little different if we're talking about being unsafe when you were a child and abuse and everything. Like, I hear you, but there's still ways to work through that. That's where you're okay, but we're kind of talking in the ask, because that's real. That's how I lived. But there did come a point in time where I said, I got to do what I got to do. If I'm disappointing somebody, even if I feel unsafe from a physical manner, I knew at that point that I had a system, I had a plan. Sometimes you do have to do that. But this is for the people who are so worried about hurting mommy's feelings, so worried about what is it going to look like, so worried about, oh, what are they going to think of me? Who gives a damn? Who cares? So ask yourself why that bothers you, why it matters so much. And then that's what we need to start focusing on. Stop looking for the prettiness. Stop looking for the meditation when you haven't even learned the roots of Buddhism, right? Like if you're like, I just want to practice Buddhism because it's, no. Do you know where it came from? Have you studied it? Did you look at it? Do you know if you even want to do the practice, or are you just trying to get to the end goal? Same thing. Shit isn't fast. Stop trying to be fast. This isn't overnight. This isn't a 3-month conversation with me. This is a long time. This is a long time. And that means you're going to go forward. You're going to go backwards. You're going to be killing it one day. You're going to be like, yeah, bitches, I'm here. And then the next time you're going to be like, oh my God, what happened to me? Oh my God, how did I get here again? Good. You're going to go forward. You're going to go backwards. So I'm going to hand this over to you. We are going to jump on Patreon because there is going to be a great worksheet over there to really help you dig a little bit deeper, just a little bit deeper, more personal to you. But you really have to ask yourself, and I'm going to leave you with this, and I want you to sit with this and get honest with yourself. It's only going to work if you're honest with yourself. Why are you worried about disappointing people? And are you willing to keep neglecting yourself because you don't want them to be disappointed? Check it out.